Welcome to week 5 of the Guild of the Rose class, How to Make Deep and Wide Social Networks. Today's class will focus on the transition from friends to BFFs, or much closer intimate friends. This class will also focus on vulnerability, how you can start making your network, and time-efficient ways to do so. If you have followed the previous steps outlined in this class, over the course of 6 months or so, you will have made around 5 very close friends, or friends that can transition into being much closer BFF colloquially, or intimate, vulnerable friendships. If you started by doing some activities, let's use rock climbing, going to a book club, and a cafe where you occasionally like to work, you would be exposed to, on average, 40 strangers that you would not have been exposed to. Over the course of 2 months, you can translate about 20 of those into acquaintances. Another 2 months will translate that into 10 casual friends. And at 6 months in, you will have a small network of about 5 people you would consider friends. The interesting thing is, in the previous step of transferring them or finding out who will be a good friend from your casual friend group, you started introducing them to each other. This is important, and we will see why later on. But first we must ask ourselves, how do humans feel closer? And a lot of it is about sharing vulnerabilities. What we mean by vulnerabilities are the things that we would be afraid to admit in a room full of strangers. The reason that we trust our family and our friends, or don't trust them if they're unhealthy relationships, is because they have shown us time and time again that we can be honest with them, even about things that feel socially unacceptable. And by creating a space where people can tell you whatever is on their heart, and that you will accept it without judgment, you create an opening for vulnerability to arise and for you to reciprocate that on your own. What situations create good scenarios for vulnerability sharing? Well, let's think back to earlier when we were describing your friend group and networking. What you want to do at this stage in order to elevate your friendships is to take those 5 people you've met, maybe 2 of them from the book club, 2 of them from the rock climbing gym, and 1 from the cafe, and try and plan out a weekend getaway. The reason you want to do this is because as adults, one of the biggest roadblocks to deepening our friendships is simply the time constriction. And that's important because people need time to open up and feel safe in order to be vulnerable. Another thing is lack of experiences. If every time you hang out with people you do the same things, those experiences tend to blur together and their impact is lessened. A weekend getaway, regardless of what it is, will offer you the opportunity to deepen your friendships with those people. And if they really are friends with you and have trusted you now for 6 months, they should be willing to do this, given that it is something that all of you will enjoy. Now, when you are thinking about what types of activities you want to plan for or what kind of trip, there are a few criteria that are important to notice. First is always plan for extra time on the trip, both to avoid optimistic planning fallacy, but also because downtime gives space for people to just hang out. 2, remember that the obstacles you run into during your trip often become the binding stories that make a group feel closer later. It's when you have to change the tire in the middle of the night on a rainy day together that you all feel much closer, even if it's pretty terrible in the time, and it's worth remembering that. Make sure you also have 1 or 2 activities that everyone in the group does together so that you can all share a new experience, but also leave yourself the opportunity to break into smaller group activities. And more important than anything else is that the journey is often more important than the destination. While the trip itself will be fun, the time you take getting there and back, kind of with a captive audience, is really your opportunity to be open, I think everyone can at least remember one train ride or car ride where a conversation just kept flowing. And that happens because there's something psychological about taking the weight of having to do something off of people. When you're traveling, all you can do is travel. Examples of things that meet these criteria, for example, are going to Las Vegas, going beach camping, going to a concert, especially a 3D music event, going to a conference for a specific type of scientific or technical field you all are interested in, related to a hobby possibly, or going to a convention. Now, there is a secondary benefit to inviting these people, whoever you have decided you want to explore a much closer friendship with. And that is when you bring them all together, unexpected synergies happen. For example, if you see in our first diagram what a small friend network looks like before a weekend trip, you will see that while they might be close friends with you, maybe one or two of them know each other from a shared event. Let's say friend 1 and friend 5 were both from rock climbing, and friend 2 and friend 3 were both from the book club. And let us assume that at least once you got friends 1 and 2 to hang out, but friend 4 doesn't really know anyone. And that's okay, but by allowing this experience to unfold, by the end of the trip, what you will see is something closer to the friend network after the weekend trip diagram. Here you will see that your friendship has gotten deeper with all of these people, but they've created a much more complex web of interactions that you did not predict. This is useful because it allows the network to be resilient. It means people can plan surprise parties together. And once they start to know each other with unexpected new friendships arising, then you can take a back seat, sort of, and the friend network becomes self-sustaining. For more insights like this one or other classes we're offering, please check out theguildoftherose.org.